Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Community. Today we have Ms. Aprajita Sinha with us and a brief introduction of Aprajita. Aprajita has done her master's and bachelor's both in biotechnology, bachelor's from Chaudhary Charan Singh University and master's from Gautam Vidya University, post which she had a 2 year research experience as a research assistant at ICGB New Delhi, and currently she is a PhD candidate in University of Trieste, ICG, also in collaboration with ICGB Italy, and as an Arthro Falashi Fellow, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Aparajita, for taking time out for this conversation.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It is great.
We always start these conversations that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher. It's too early, but yes.
It's still too early to decide what I really want to do because I'm a person who likes to explore. But actually, since the start, I have been wanted to do something about, in biology and something in biology. And I had a lot of questions in my life. Like when I was in my bachelor's, I had so many questions, curiosities, which I used to go and ask my teacher, who was a professor. He's sadly he passed away, but he was someone who always answered my silly questions and always encouraged me actually. So it was really nice. So since then, I knew that I want to be a researcher. And also, I wanted to, like, as a teenager, I wanted to differ from being a normal doctor that people say. So that's something.
So, as you mentioned that as a teenager, you do not want to become a medical doctor, but apparently, after the degree you are enrolled, still you have that title in front of your name.
I would say the real doctor.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Sure. Like we have these, like, constant debates between medical doctors versus academic doctors. We are. So let's start with the first step. You did your master's at Gautam Vidya University, and
yes,
then you joined ICG. You
yes.
have experienced 2 years of research in real. So let's start with that. That during that duration, what were your experiences which made you believe that you should do a PhD?
So that's a really nice question. I would actually like to also mention something in between, which was during my master's for my dissertation, I actually joined DRDO, DPAS, and over there I went to a different field. Actually, as a bachelor's, I was really interested in plant biotechnology, but I wanted to expand my horizon and I wanted to go towards biotechnology in normal so that I have different fields that I can explore. So in during my master's, when we had to choose like which field you want, so I chose animal biotechnology at that time because it was the only option which was closer to mine. And then after that, I went to DRDO, and over there I got to know different things about Indian labs. For example, that there were a lot of things which were missing, but also and I was not very sure at that time what I really want to do. So for that reason, I did not directly apply for a PhD. I went to ICGB and I joined as a research assistant just to know if I'm capable of doing it because I was not very sure. And then I joined ICGB, and I would say it was a really nice lab, and I had great seniors over there, and they were really helpful. And I explored my own self as well because my PI, he was in US, and I was also exploring my own self, and he was guiding me through online video calls and stuff. And it was really nice actually to understand what is real research because even during masters you have a safety net and you don't really have to troubleshoot and everything. But during my research experience, it was really great because now I had problems at every level, and I was really questioning my own self, like, am I even a good researcher at this point? Because during my master's, whatever I would do, it would work in like 1 minute, one time. And I was just repeating 3 times just to have replicates. But then here, during my ICGB research assistant program, I actually had a lot of problems and I was learning how to troubleshoot them, how to do different things. And I would say also help different people in different projects. It was really great experience. And because I had such a great experience with the lab, with the work, I thought I am capable, I guess, and I should apply for a PhD. And they were also very motivating. So yeah, that's something.
So having that curiosity as a kid, having the questions, having the teachers who were very encouraging, and now at the start of the research career, when you mentioned about, do I really belong here or not? That's like this imposter syndrome. Most of the researchers, and even at different life stages in their career, they do talk about like, really, am I good enough? Do I really belong here? So you overcome it at really early stage. So let's start with that. That when you mentioned that you were facing different kind of challenges at every level when you were doing that research assistantship, based on your experience, what you would like to share with our audience, that if someone is in that early stage right now, how they can overcome that feeling of, am I good enough? Do I really believe?
I would say that, like you said, it's very common in the PhD program. I would say I'm still not completely over it, but what I would say that because the people that were around me when I was a research assistant, I would say they were really, really motivating. Even if something was not working at one time or even for 20 times, they would never say that you are a bad researcher. They would always say, it is normal. Just go and do it again, it will work. And by the end of the day, it would work. And I had no obligations in the sense that no one actually came to me and said, you are wasting this too much, you are doing this too much. So I had the boundaries that I could expand, and I had something that I could always go and say, because the first thing that I was told when I joined the lab, that mistakes are very normal. If you ever make a mistake, come and tell it to us. Okay. So I was never scared of making a mistake. And one thing that someone said during in my lab, which was, experiments are meant to fail. When you make it work, it's a miracle in itself. That's science. That's okay. So I always say this to myself, even when something doesn't work out of nowhere, that okay, experiments are meant to fail. It's okay. We will do it again and it will work one day. So that's something that we should keep on saying.
That's a good starting point. And then, as you when you mentioned about welcoming the mistake, is obviously one of the important part for any PhD student, and having that supportive peer environment in the lab. We, in our conversation at this platform, we always discuss that how important that is, that the lab you join, the group you join, have to have a supportive environment, and it is not universal anyways for anyone. There will be people who will find this as toxic, whereas they'll move to another lab and then they're a better fit for that. And that happens. We all know that in research all around the globe, that is the reality. But another important point which you mentioned earlier about the infrastructure, that there are labs which probably might or might not have the lab structure, infrastructure, or might not have well resources. Like as you mentioned, that some labs give you this liberty that you can fail more than one time, whereas some others, there is like very strict budgeting or like limited by resources, or probably just organizational or like thing in there that the system doesn't allow. So based on your experience, what you can share that early on, how the researchers who are not sure that they really want to pursue PhD or not, how they should make sure that they belong or not, what all the things they should do, or keep a checklist for them.
So I would say that in general, the students are generally scared that we are going to fail. I would say that firstly, we shouldn't think about failing, but we should actually think about if it is for us. I mean, PhD is something which will always stay like this. I mean, I was in DRDO and there were a lot of things which were quite different, and I felt like maybe research field is not for me. For example, the environment was pretty different from ICGEB Delhi, and it was very, very different. At that time, I asked a lot of questions to myself that I don't think I belong here. I don't know if it is something that I want to do. But when I went to ICGEB, I understood that okay, it is all about the people. Okay, it's all about the experience that you have. It's all about the encouragement that you have, and the people that you look up to. And I would say that we should always find our own space. It's never that you are not you cannot do it. It's always that you need to find the right people to support you and to motivate you and to do it. I mean,
Absolutely. And I think this is very important part when we talk about the support systems. It can be the family, the friends, the peers in the lab, like who are there with you when the experiments are not working, which, as you mentioned, a lot of making that they will work. So whenever an experiment fails, it brings certain amount of stress. Okay. You have experienced it during those 2 years and decided, like as you mentioned about all the troubleshootings it included, gave you a better training for knowing yourself and then making sure that you really want to do a PhD. So now when you were committed that, okay, I want to do a PhD, what was the first thing you started looking for that you want to do a PhD in India or abroad and why?
So I would have loved even to do a PhD in India, but my problem with India was firstly, I don't like the entrance system in India because it actually doesn't check your capability of being a researcher, but actually how much you remember, and those things are completely out of my caliber, I would say. It's not something for me, and that's why I did not apply for it at all, even though I really liked some of the labs really so much. Even in ICGB Delhi, the lab that I was in, it was really great. But I actually thought about it during my master's. If I ever do a PhD, I will not do it in India because my master's experience was not great with the lab infrastructure, I would say, because there was one time that AC broke. Okay, it was too hot and the AC broke, and because of that, all the machines started breaking one by one, and no one fixed it for 3 months. And it was really, really hard for us to finish our master's dissertation because it's for 6 months, right? And it was really hard. For that reason, I thought to myself that maybe no. And also, there are some other difficulties that are there in India. And I also am someone who loves to explore different places because also in India, I have been to almost different places. I have been brought up in different states. Okay, I have been brought up in Gujarat. I was in Gujarat for 2 years. I was in Hyderabad for 4 or 5 years, and then I was also in Karnataka. Then I came to Delhi. So it was all of a mixture for me. So I always wanted to also explore outside and also see that what because I really love to learn from other people as well. So it's something that I was really looking forward to, and that's something about myself.
And also, when you mentioned about having that SWOT analysis about yourself, that what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what actually is important for you, that is very important when you are thinking to either move to a new place or to a country. That is very important for all the young researchers who are thinking to move to a new place or even moving the continents. Now we'll talk about the fellowship and the opportunities when you already made up this mind that, okay, I want to do PhD outside India. Then comes the how are you going to get those fellowships? How are you going to contact the PIs in the lab where you are interested, which does the work? So during for that process, if you can share some of your experiences with our audience, which are still in the process of finding their labs all around the world.
That's actually such a difficult phase because at that time you become really desperate and you start questioning your own self. Am I wasting time? Am I doing something which is wrong? Because there is no one who will actually really, really guide you for it. There were even simplest things, basic things that I was missing. For example, I did not know what is a transcript, and the university gives you a mark sheet and they need a transcript. And because of that, I lost one fellowship because I did not know that you need actually a transcript to apply for it. And I gave my mark sheet and they said it's not acceptable. And there are different things. I would say also I applied for Oxford and there was a professor who was really into taking me in the lab and stuff. But then he told me you will need your own fellowship. And I did not know as a master's fresh graduate like where to apply. And also all the fellowships in UK have a deadline which is before you apply for the admissions. Okay, which is also something you don't know because I was someone who did not actually want to come to US. I wanted to explore Europe more, and I would say that it was the hardest part because in Europe it's really, really hard because it's not like a university program that you get and you have a university program where you apply and you get in, and then that's how you will be placed in different labs. It's not like that. You have to apply to the professor. The professor has to reply back to you and say that, okay, we have this fellowship, we have this something, okay, you can come to my lab. It was something like that, and I kept mailing different people. I would say that many people told me that you have to mail 100 people in a day and one will reply. I did not do that, honestly. I would have done 100 people in 2 years. And it was really, for me, it was like, if I don't like the project, I don't want to do it. And I was really strict about what I want, even though I got into different program. For example, I got into Japan for a neurobiology, and I did not want to go there. We should also understand what is good for us, because there are lots of papers. For example, I would have gone for neurobiology and other things, but then I don't enjoy doing neurobiology just by reading it. I don't enjoy reading the papers. So for me, it was really, really hard to choose, because I was also desperate, first thing. Second thing, I needed a PhD program, a PhD fellowship, and also a PhD place. And it was really hard, but all I would say that people should just sit down, calm themselves, and not be desperate at this point, and then just go and look at the profiles of the faculties, and then mail them, wait for their replies, and keep following up, actually, because the faculties are so busy, they don't reply to you. Okay, so you have to keep following up, and then ask them, okay, is it okay? Is it okay if I apply with you? And the fellowship, about the fellowship that you asked, when I joined ICGB Delhi, this is ICGB fellowship, Arturo Falaschi, which is a very competitive fellowship. And I got to know about this fellowship by my PI, which was Anmol. And she told me about this fellowship when I entered, and she said, because you are aiming for a broad PhD, so you should know about this fellowship if you really like. But I also really liked the labs over here, and also because I had a great experience with ICGB Delhi, I said, why not just go there and be, yeah. So that's something.
I think this is very important. And for all the young audience who are still preparing their application packages, what Rajita mentioned, having the clear research focus, as Aprajita said, that if you cannot read a paper of certain research focus, there is one possibility that you might be able to get through it if you get somewhere, but probably the suffering it will bring with it will be other. So having that thing should be the first one, that you know that what is your research focus, what are the labs you are applying for, and then comes like the writing email part, most important follow-up. You should not be writing too much also, because sometimes that's what we have seen. The PIs get really, really pissed off because of too much of follow-up. So you have to maintain a balance writing up. If they are interested, if they have something, obviously they respond, and then that's how you know. But even more than what is important is like the country and the lab of your choice where you're ready to move. As Aparajita mentioned, that most of the students almost at some point of time feel like they are desperate, that whatever they get, they want to move out of their countries and go and join it, because they have been writing emails constantly. They are trying to just get acceptance from anywhere. But what makes it worse is you get one acceptance, you move to the country, and within 1 week or a month, you realize that you do not want it. That's the worst that can happen. So to avoid all of those, as Aprajita mentioned, one good way is to experience research in real life by yourself. That is the first one. And if it is more than 6 months, so probably you might have a fair idea of it. And if everything is working in those 6 months, then make sure that you extend that time, because then that's not how research is. As Rajita said, that for masters, everything was working, but when the real taste of research she tasted in ICGB New Delhi, it was different. But still, she managed to do all the troubleshooting, committed herself that she really wanted a PhD, moved to Italy. Now, we'll talk about a different one. Here, you already had clear idea. Your research focus was clear. Your lab was of your choice. Now move to Italy. What were the challenges when you moved from New Delhi to Italy? And second, how did you overcome?
Firstly, of course, the language. Okay, I mean, the language will always be a problem when you come to a country like Italy, Spain, France, the European countries, I would say in general. They have their own languages, and everything in Italy or these countries are in their language, from a chips packet to everything. And it's really hard for us because the first comes the cultural shock because we are very well aware about how things work in America due to the movies. Okay, but we are not actually aware about how things work in Italy or Spain because we don't watch a lot of movies which are Italian or Spanish. And for me, it was really different that they are completely different from Americans. And it was the biggest shock for me because it was like I couldn't understand their culture because their culture is quite different from whatever we have seen on cinemas. But I would say that biggest shock would be the language because their accent is also quite different. Because in India, we are very well versed with English. And here firstly, my biggest problem was I couldn't concentrate on any presentations because whenever they were giving presentations, they always took pauses while giving presentation. And in India, we are not very used to it. And whenever they took pause, I broke my focus and I was like, what is happening? Okay. But then I got used to it. And then I also started learning their language. And they are very friendly, I would say. They are very friendly, and especially in ICGB, Italy, it's all has to be in English. So it's not a problem of language, but mostly I would say about accents, different accents, and different also surviving in the country and going around because there are lots of different things that we have in India and we are not grateful for. And here you have it completely different. And that's something I would say that was the biggest challenge for me and biggest change.
Absolutely. And I think this is what one thing which we try to convey during these conversations, that no matter either you are moving out of country as a PhD student, postdoctoral candidate, or as a faculty, these are the things which comes with it. Either it is cultural shock or it is about the availability. As a project I mentioned, there are so many small things which we don't appreciate when we are in India or in any other country, wherever we are, because we take those things as for granted. And when we go out, that's when we realize that it was a blessing to have those instant food for, the hawkers at the street. You can just go out and eat at any point of time, even as a single cup of tea is very, like, it's hard to find places if you are not in your country. Obviously, language is one thing, which is one of the biggest challenge whenever you are moving out of country where the first language is not the one which you know. So we can overcome that if you know whatever time you have from offer letter to joining there, try to have some basics of that language so that you can do your basic minimal day-to-day operations. And it also shows to the people there that you are putting effort into it, and then they are more open to you, and then they welcome you even more warmer. Second thing, now we talk about the system. You came, you started learning their language, gelling up, very good. How about this work-life balance? Because you have experienced 2 years of research in India, and now you are in Italy, Trieste. How does that change the work-life balance, and how do you navigate? And based on your experience, what you can suggest to our young researchers?
I would say I don't know about different country in Europe, but in general here, it's more a professional environment than a student environment because in India, it's completely a student environment and you are a student and not a professional or a corporate employee kind of person. Here, it's more professional. You come on time, you go mostly on time if you finish early. But if you have extra time, you should come on time. Whenever you leave, you leave. They don't mind, but you should be there by 9, and you have to maintain a professional relationship with your colleagues. You can be friends, but it has to be in a boundary. In India, we are mostly just lying there in the lab, and we are more chilled, I would say. We would go for a walk, and we would come back, and it's completely different, I would say, because it's more of a corporate environment, professional environment where you come, you finish your work, and you go, and you come back again at the same time. Meanwhile, in India, my lab, did not actually have a timing because we would come whenever we want and we would go whenever we feel like. So it was completely different when I came here because I was really shocked. Oh, so you mean I have to come at 9? And that was completely different for me. And actually, I would say this is because of the lab that I was in. And she was really shocked that in India it doesn't work like this. So it was a bit different. But I would say, other than that, I really like the environment, research environment here. They have really good way of making research work. Here, when you come, we actually have, it's the same institute, but still I see a lots of difference when it comes to research for me. Some examples are like they have a kitchen where they actually make the PBS, the medium, the everything that you actually need, which is not very scientific. Okay, you can just go and grab it and just come back. And they have a storehouse where they have all the necessities that you don't have to wait for a flask for 1 month or something. So, or also normal antibodies and stuff. So you can just go downstairs and just get it whenever you want. And they have everything well documented when it comes to um, the Gmails, when it comes to different things, I would say, which makes your life really, really easier. For example, we don't have to go around with the USB because it's already we have something that can hold our data for 24 hours, and then you can actually just go to your lab and transfer it. So it's really easy when it comes to day-to-day life. Okay, but yeah, that's something that was quite different, and I think it makes our life really, really easier. And that's that.
This is very important. And also for the students whoever is listening in India and places where PhD is more of a student academic path, whereas in Europe, people see that as an employment. As Aprajita mentioned, that's where you have to maintain that corporate relationship very professional, which is good. And another thing, which is more important, if you're planning to move out of your country, one thing which you should focus is about having the clear expectations from your PhD supervisor or the PI, no matter what you say, that what they expect from you and what are your expectations from them before moving the countries or the continents in some of cases. Because this sets up your common area that both of you knows exactly what is expected of you and from you, so that you know what you are expecting from the other person and what are their expectations from you. This is very important because what we have seen, like after 2 to 5 years of research with the professor, whatever you want to say, the PI is, we have seen the dropout rates in PhD increasing year by year. And there has to be reasons for that is happening. People mostly focus on it is the reason of mental health. So now, based on that, Aprajita, would you like to share some of those experiences, either your own or the peers you have seen, that why we should check that our mental health is at the best, no matter where we are or what we are?
Especially for students who come from different countries, I would say it's really important to actually have a good mental health because PhD actually takes a toll on you, and it's always very, very challenging, and you have to always be on your toes that what is happening, because there can be some days that everything is going all right, and some days out of nowhere it will not be working, and your PI would be upset with you and everything. But we have to have our own composure. So I would say there's also in ICGB, we actually have a psychologist and that we can actually go to, and we can talk about our problems, work-related problems, and different things. But also we have to go and talk to someone, because I'm very open with my brothers. I go and I tell them this happened, that happened. I'm also open with my friends. And also, I would say it's something that also makes your colleagues even closer when you talk about your problems and when you share the similar kind of problems and you can actually solve them better. I would say we should always be vocal about our feelings, and we should always understand what is happening, because sometimes it's not about you, it's about the person, what they are going through. And it's important that we understand our own worth, and we understand that it's not our fault at some points. So that's something, because there could be times that our PI is also too much overwhelmed, or something and they have some expectations from you, or they are expecting some project, some experiments to work differently, or it works differently. So they would say something and that could hurt you, but it is not personal. It is about the experiment. That's it.
Absolutely. And I think the one very mature statement which you gave, that the PhD student should consider that your mentor is also a human being. They might be going through some things, and it is good to have it both ways, like mentor accepting the mentee as a human and vice versa, because this gives you the freedom that you can make mistakes, they can make mistakes, and having this clear conversation, what I mentioned, setting up those gives you this freedom that you can approach each other with an open-mindedness that, okay, this is what I have observed in my experiments, the hypothesis, they might or might not follow the hypothesis. And to all the PhD scholars, we have said this multiple times, and one again we say, do not marry a hypothesis. That is the science and beauty of research is it might or might not be fulfilled by your experiments. But then it opens a new door, which might be even more interesting after not following the hypothesis. So has that happened anytime with your project?
Every time. But because I would say that we always, because my PI is someone who likes to talk about different experiments and the hypothesis that she's thinking, and also listen to our thoughts about it. So we always have a discussion every week, at least twice, I would say, that we always have a discussion what we are expecting from this experiment and everything. And all in general, most of the times it's completely different. And we try to find our way through it and understand, oh, is this not different, but this is different. Why is it so? And we try to make another hypothesis. Maybe it is wrong in another sense. But I would say that we never are disheartened about it, like in general, because we are like, okay, it did not work. That's fine. That's fine. It did not work. I mean, not everything that you think will work, but it will always create another way for you that you can actually explore. And I would say there are unlimited ways to go through different projects in biology, especially, and we can always find a different way to go through it. And even I would say I would say that even a negative result is a result, because then they say that it's not different and you have proved it. So it's a result in any case. You're proving something. So that's that.
And having this positive mindset obviously helps. But with all those failed experiments, no matter how great the conversation is in the PI and the PL, it still brings you to that brain of burnout. Have you ever experienced those, and how did you overcome that? Like rejuvenation in career, how you can, what you can share with our audience, that how can they check that they are actually going through a burnout phase and they should take them?
Firstly, the first burnout phase is always that you're very tired. You're exhausted as soon as you enter after a weekend, because it's generally, I would say that every person, every PhD person would relate to it. Whenever they go after a weekend and they're like, how are you? And they would say, I'm dead. I don't know. And this is something which is quite normal, especially in our field, since we have to work physically, we have to work mentally, and we have to be always on our feet to do things. So whenever you are having a breakdown, mental breakdown, you should always have friends. I would say, especially people who are living abroad, you should always have friends in your institute or outside your institute where you can actually go and speak your heart out. Okay, you can share your problems. And there are lots of times that things don't work out for you. Example, myself, I would say that there was something which worked completely fine for 1 year, and out of nowhere, for 6 months, it did not work at all. And I was still on it for 6 months. I was doing different things, but I was still on it. And the best part about my PI is she never questioned like why is it not working, because she was always trying to find out the reason about it. So it's also, I would say that when someone believes in you, you believe in yourself. And that's something which is also not really good, because you're asking for affirmation from someone else. But I would also say it actually helps, especially for us, it Indians, I would say it really, really helps that someone is appreciating you or someone is acknowledging your effort. They know that it's not working, so they will give you a free hand to try different things and do whatever it takes. But in general, I would say that whenever I have a mental breakdown or something, I take some time off, and not from the work because it is not really okay, because I have to save my leaves to go to my country. But in general, you can take some leave that you can go for a weekend, drive away and go to some other country, because I'm very fortunate. I'm in Italy, and I'm at the border of Slovenia and Croatia, so I can just take a bus and go to Slovenia or Croatia, and that's that. And you should really, really talk to people. And when you joke about your own problems, everything gets solved in your own way. So
That's a good one. Like everyone has their own way of rejuvenation. Some people can connect more with nature. Some people are good having a conversation with the friends, with family. So you should acknowledge your burnouts, take time off, as Aparajita mentioned, and rejuvenate yourself for it because you have been there for long. Okay? You are already committed. You have tested all the checklists what we started talking about, from writing to emails to these failed experiments. You have traveled all this far. So you know that you have that what it takes to be a PhD scholar. One more thing which Aparajita mentioned, yes, we do look for validations most of the time, depending on the country where we are coming from, what are our backgrounds. It's has its own pros and cons, as Aparajita mentioned, but you know yourself best. And as we said in the starting, that if you have done your SWOT analysis, you know what are your strengths, what are your weak points, the opportunities and the threats, all of that. So you know that probably you are a person who gets motivated after appreciation. Probably you are the person who is self-motivated or not looking for any validation. Whatever makes you happy, whatever works best for you, follow it. And one thing which we can say, that appreciation does work. We, in these researcher celebrity conversations, one thing which we really want to do is appreciate every single researchers who has spent any time in research, spending their lifetime through, because Aparajita knows, and everyone whosoever is listening to this, the world is full of critics. We need more people who can appreciate the good things. Yes, we do have problems all around the world, but what we should be doing is bringing solutions to it, what most of us as researchers are trying to do. Aparajita, one thing I can ask, that in this short duration of your research exposure, being a PhD candidate, what keeps you motivated to go to the lab every day?
That's a difficult question, but I would say actually science, because I really want to sometimes I do an experiment and I acquire them, and in the same day I go and I check the results and analyze everything, because I'm too excited to know exactly what is happening. And I got this habit from my PI, I would say, because even she is someone, she really wants to know right now what is happening. And that's something that really excites me, and I want to look into the results. And as soon as I get to know, okay, this is the result, I relax. I don't like to really work on computer a lot, but I really like to do the experiments, different experiments and different things. And and also because my lab is a good environment to live in. It's something because the people are very motivating even in this lab. They are very motivating. They share their issues as well, and we work together as a team. That's the best part of this lab, that we always work together. If someone needs something, we are always together, and that's something that we should actually look for. We should actually go to a lab which works as a team and not individually, because many people ask you in the interviews, are you a team player, or are you a individual player? And I always say that I'm both, because I have worked alone because my PI was in US, but I have also worked with different people because they needed help or I needed help from them. And that's something we should always know, that you should help people and they will in return make a good environment for you, and that you should appreciate each other. That's it.
I think that was wonderful. And with this, we'll say to all the audience that if you want some more information about the fellowship, that Art of Fellowship Fellowship, what Aparajita is already enjoying, if you want that, or any other questions, if you have, you can write to Aparajita. If you want Stanford Society to put you in touch with our researcher celebrities, we are there to help you, to work with you if research picks you. So that is the one thing which is which excites you and keeps you motivated every single morning that you really want to do. You want to go to the lab, you want to make it better. And yes, as Aprajita mentioned, there will be nights where you'll be dreaming about your experiments. And that is the fun part of being a researcher. With this, we'll say thank you so much, Aprajita, for sharing your journey and taking time out for this conversation.
Thank you so much. It was really nice. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And to all the audience, we'll say stay tuned for another episode of Researchers.